Welcome to the Friendly Moms Club podcast with Jen and Karlee. We're the new mom friends you didn't know you needed.
We are creating a safe space to bring moms together, lighten the heaviness, and find joy in the everyday moments. Together, we will share our own experiences of being new moms while navigating the topics we wish more people talked about.
Join us every Monday to hear us skip the small talk and dive right into the uncomfortable. Happy Mom Day, Jen.
Happy Mom Day, Karlee.
It's an ugly day in the neighborhood.
Just doesn't have the same ring to it as when it's nice out. But it is. It's just
a
gross.
Beautiful day.
It's been raining all week. It's been cloudy and gray and just like...
Yuck. And like not just like a little rain. I love like a nice crisp fall day. But this rain has been too much. It's too much. I don't like it. I don't like getting wet. I did brave the rain yesterday and I went for a walk with Henry and we were both miserable. But no, it was nice. Sort of.
No, but like fresh air is so good. I'm like the same. I like a little bit of rain, but too much rain with a child especially, it just like adds another layer of having to put a rain jacket on. And then do you own a rain jacket that's the correct size? And then
they're always big.
Toques aren't waterproof, and then like it's just.
I know. I put him in his Muddy Buddy yesterday, and he got so mad, so I had to bring out the emergency puffs. And then he was thrilled.
Okay, but the Muddy Buddies,
so cute.
How cute are they? Like they're just.
It's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
In like every size too. I've seen older kids in them, and I'm like, you're cute too. Like every kid is just so cute in these little Muddy Buddies.
You know what it is about the rain too? I like being out in the rain. It's the cleanup and coming back in after the rain. Yes. So like if you go for a walk, your stroller's wet and you have a wet jacket, then you have to hang everything in your garage. Or if you don't have a garage, where do you hang it?
Have you ever had wet jeans?
Ugh, the worst.
Like, you know, because it doesn't bother me when I'm outside, but then you come inside and they like
cross your legs on the couch and they're wet.
And they stick to you and they like,
See, this is the whole like skinny jeans not being cool anymore. You know what doesn't get wet in the rain? Skinny jeans.
The end of the skinny jeans.
Yeah. It's problematic now that these young hipsters
are saying poo-poo to the skinny jeans.
I know. Meanwhile, we're both sitting here in straight leg pants.
I know. But these
both
are
mine.
These are your maternity.
Yeah, they're mine.
Your maternity
but that's
pants.
all they had.
I know.
That's all they had.
They don't have like super fashionable maternity clothes.
No, they don't.
Or if you want to buy them, you have to spend like $200 for a pair of jeans, which you're going to wear them for a couple months. Like I just don't see the point in spending that much money.
Old Navy for the win.
So, I mean, I shared it yesterday on our stories, but sharing maternity clothes with friends,
life-changing.
Like, why not do it? You only wear them for a few months.
And same with clothes that like you grow in and out of. So like postpartum, if you buy clothes in a bigger size, you can share that with friends. Yeah. And like if you grow out of clothes when you become pregnant or postpartum and you don't think you'll fit them for a while, find your tiny friends. Hand them down.
I know. Share the love.
My skinny clothes is my other friend's fat clothes. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
Hey.
She's also like 25, so just you wait. It's gonna come. I'm kind of excited about the rain because I planted some new grass babies. And in the spring when I did it, I had to water the grass twice a day, which is so much work and also not great for the environment, except, then you get grass. And this time I did it in the fall, a little reseed, and it's raining, and I just can't stop going out looking at my little grass babies.
I mean, it does take a lot of work out of your plate, so that's great.
Yeah. Thank you, Rain, for that. The only thing you're good for.
I mean, there's lots of other things in the world that it's good for,
too,
but, we'll just, who cares about that? Hi.
The cat is sniffing your head.
I know.
He's got no boundaries. He's like, let me go lay in
tail in the face.
The most expensive cat bed, also known as the Snuggle Me.
Yes.
Okay. That he's taken over. Now he's whipping you with his tail. This is my life.
Okay.
Now you have to deal with that.
Let's get into the episode today.
We are going to talk about, I just cut you off there, but you know what? It's not my fault. It's ADHD.
I don't care.
It happens. We're going to talk about the transition to daycare.
Like how to pick a daycare. What are the pros, cons? What do you look for in a daycare? How to prepare for daycare.
Types of daycares.
The transition to daycare, like emotionally. Not just like the physical location, supplies. Like we're also going to get into the mental side of things because
that's what we do. That's what we do. We talk about emotions.
We do. Yeah. And let me tell you, there's a lot about daycare. I thought I'd be much better at it than I was.
You know
like
what?
all of postpartum. I thought I would kill it. And
I thought the initial transition would be easier. But then I thought the like long term being away from him would be harder. But I posted to my story today that like I'm very grateful for daycare today because yesterday I kept him home because I worked a couple of days. Well, I worked 4 shifts in a row, so I didn't really see him. So I kept him home to have like a nice fun day. Spoiler, it was not super fun. He was having like a lot of really big emotions, having a really hard time. And I just like did not have the capacity to, it was very overwhelming for me.
Well, it's your first week back to work.
Exactly.
So you had a lot of emotions. You were tired. You worked night shifts.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot for you too.
For sure.
So you have a lot of emotions, then he has emotions, and
he knew that I had been away. So even if we were like sitting and playing together, and I literally at one point got up to walk into the kitchen to refill my coffee and like full on tantrum. And it's like, I get it. Like I understand why he's upset. He's like dealing with separation, but it's overwhelming. So today I like was so excited to drop him off at daycare because he loves it there. He has fun. He plays. He's always in a good mood when I pick him up. But I wasn't expecting that because I thought that long term I would like really miss him. And I do. But I also, this is like solidifying that like I am not meant to be a stay-at-home parent. And I'm okay with that. Yeah. I am okay with that because I am my best self when I get to do stuff for me. Not that stay-at-home moms can't, but yeah. We're all wired differently.
Well, and that's the big thing. And for us, like living in the Lower Mainland, it's just also not super feasible to not have 2 incomes in your household. And so Karlee and I both just, for our families, need to work, and therefore we need to use daycare. And so that might not be something that you have to do, or you're choosing to just live off 1 income, like all the power to you.
To watch
for stay-at-home mom, like all the power. Yeah, family, if you're going to be stay-at-home mom, amazing, that is great. Just for us in our lives and how expensive life is and our lifestyles, and you know, like it's just, we need to use daycare, and it wasn't really an option to not do that. Definitely.
So let's get into how you chose the daycare. So we talked about why you needed it. We both need to work. Neither of us have family that are able to watch them full time, Monday to Friday, which a lot of people have. And that's great for them. Yeah. We talk about why we need a daycare. Like, how did you pick a daycare between like hours and type? And
I mean, let's be real. The biggest thing was just finding one that had spots.
Yes, availability.
Because
100%.
I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world. And if you're listening from somewhere other than the Lower Mainland, please message. I'd be so curious to know what it's like to try to find childcare in other places outside of the Lower Mainland BC, because it is so hard to find them here. And people are going on the wait list when they get pregnant. Like, we're not talking the babies here. You're pregnant with a baby, and it asks you for baby's name and registration deposits, and we put TBD on ours because we didn't know. We don't know the name. And so we actually found a daycare that was opening right when it was close to my due date. It was before the baby was here, but it was close to the due date. They were opening brand new. So we went and actually toured that facility, and we were able to get on the wait list and got a guaranteed spot there. So we ended up choosing that daycare, but we did go and tour a couple other facilities, and some of the things that we were looking for was like playground, outdoor space at the facility. I just liked the idea of it being like an enclosed space for their daycare, not somewhere that they were walking to public parks. Like, just something for us. We liked that they stayed all in the same space.
Which I feel like must be a requirement. Are there daycares in the Lower Mainland without that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. There's one near us, and they walk to a park, so sometimes we bring Jordan there, and like the daycare's there with groups and stuff. Oh,
you know what? I have seen that with home daycares, that they go to parks. But I'm sure senders do it too. But
maybe they're just doing it for something different, and they do have I don't know, but I was just like, I like that they just have, they can stay where they are. There. They don't have to go anywhere else. For us, hours of opening was really hard to find because we work shift work as well, and we start early in the morning. So we were looking for somewhere that was open quite early or had extended hours, which not all of them do. Some are just like 8 to 4. And that's actually not realistic for a full-time job for you to be able to just do 8 to 4.
Unless you and your partner work, like one works early, like a 6 to 2, and the other one does like a 9 to 5.
Yep. So we were really looking for something that was just, we could get a spot, they had a playground there, and that had good hours. Like, those were kind of our biggest things.
And security for you. You were...
So we didn't know that, though. Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. We didn't go into it knowing that that would matter to us until we went and toured this daycare, and they actually have like fingerprint scanners to get into the facility. So you can't even get into the daycare without having your fingerprint in the system of like being a parent or working there. And we didn't know that would matter to us until we toured it, and then toured other facilities without it, and we're like, And you're like, wait, this matters. We kind of like this. Like, it's definitely not for everyone, But because of, what we do for work, our histories, some of the things that we've dealt with, it just made us feel very good about it. And they also have cameras in the classroom. So pros and cons to the cameras in the classroom.
The cat is eating your hair. Hi. Come sit, buddy.
I just liked that I could look if I wanted to. And let me tell you, it's actually not healthy to look all the time. Like, we can get into this later. But I liked that I just think it holds them accountable. Like, any parent can check in at any time. Like, again, it wasn't like a need. But when I saw it, I was like, I kind of like this.
That's nice.
So those were the things for us. And then another thing we didn't realize that we cared about is they have a meal plan option that you can add on. So for extended hours and meal plan, you can add them on and take them off at any month.
That's
nice.
So
say you're having like a super busy month, or one parent is going away for a few weeks that month, you could add on the meal plan that month. And then you don't have to worry about meals, or, you know what I mean? Or like, depending on work, you need extended hours one month, but you don't need it the other. You can take them on and off. And we liked that flexibility of being able to add those things or remove them if we don't need them, or if my family can help one month, or whatever. Yeah. I'm going to be going on mat leave, so we don't need extended hours, but we might need it for the remainder of this year. And
You'll definitely need the meal plan.
Yeah, the meal plan is super great. And then knowing what we can do that when I have a little baby at home is just such peace of mind that we don't have to worry about it. So those are some of the things we didn't realize we would care about until we found out that those are things
that you have.
And then we're like, okay, the security, the meal plan, extended hour, on and off options, the cameras in there. Like, those were just things that were not on our list that
nice to have,
that were determining factors for us. Okay, so that is how we chose our daycare. And what about you guys? How did you choose? What were you looking for?
I was looking for like location. I wanted something like within like a 10-minute drive to home. Hours was another big one for us because I work shift work. I wasn't super particular about a meal plan. I think if it was offered, I would maybe do it once in a while, but we cook a lot at home, so that wasn't a huge, not at the top of the list. And then,
location and hours.
Like, location and hours, and like availability was the main thing, really, if we're being honest. And I had a preference towards a center over a home-based daycare for now, only because most centers have longer hours.
Yes.
So I'm not against a home-based daycare, but they usually have much shorter hours. So that just doesn't work for us in the stage we're in right now.
And that was the same with us.
Yeah. And then we ended up finding a place that just like, it was one of the only place that called us for a spot, and it was full time, and it was a month before I started work, and it was like a steal of a deal, very reasonable. I was talking with one of the other moms that goes there as well, or her son goes there, and we're like, we don't want to send our kids like a bargain daycare place just to save a buck, but knowing now that like we actually like it and they seem wonderful and it's reasonable, definitely makes me like not want to leave. But it's like a no frills place. Like, there's no cameras, there's no fancy apps, there's nothing like that. I think that a camera wasn't a must have for me, but it's definitely like a nice to have. So if we do ever change at any point, I think that is something that I would prioritize. But again, I don't know if it would be healthy for me while I'm at work. So it's that balance. There are some days where I'm like, I wish I could just like look because I miss him. But I don't know, it would be a challenge for me to like have a healthy boundary with that.
There's definite pros and cons. Like, speaking from experience, especially my first few weeks back at work, I would look and I'd end up in tears at work. And I'm like, see,
all worked up about it.
You almost have to like put it out of your mind, especially when you're at work and you need to be focused on important things. Like,
exactly.
And so when you're looking, and she'd be happy. It's not like I'd look and she'd be by herself crying. Like, she'd be happy and then I would cry. So I'm like, this is not.
Happy. Yeah. Lots of emotions there. Yeah. We don't have an app with that like tracks things, but they do give us a really thorough report when we ask them. I've noticed a lot of parents just kind of go in, pick their kid up and go, especially if their kid's old enough and they can talk to them, then they can tell them kind of what's going on. They give us a nice thorough report and they seem to really like him, and they keep telling us that he's like adjusting really well, which makes me very happy. So I'll stick with the no frills for now.
I think that it's important to find somewhere that really cares about your child. Like, I think that's one of the most important things, but it's the hardest to screen for.
Definitely.
Because you go and tour it and you're like,
how do you know?
I don't know. Kids look happy in this class. Like, I don't know. But for ours, there's 6 infant toddler rooms. So you have no idea which one she's going to get. So you could go see all the instructors and think, Oh, those ones seem nice, but you don't know that you're going to,
Does she change rooms every week or is
no,
always with the same
she's
kids?
in the same room. Yeah. Same kids, same room,
but do they
same
get
instructors.
different? Oh, I see.
No, same 3 ladies that are in there. Like, we love them. We're so happy with them. But that's not something you can really...
You don't know.
When you go for a 15-minute tour, you don't get... Like, you can get kind of a vibe, I guess. But
you
and
don't
that's one of the
know
most
until they go.
important things. That, you already kind of say yes and send them there.
But it's also, like, they put you on a trial period. Like, I think it's like a 1 or 2 month trial period where they can be like, this isn't working out. But then also the same for you, because like what works for one family might not work for another, because we all have different values and we all raise our kids differently. So as long as you jive with them. But I actually said this to Jeff when we were picking. I said, I don't want to send him here just because it's a really good deal, but we don't have any other option, for one. And 2, I don't think the price in this case is going to like affect the quality of care. And you only know if it's going to work for you and your family once you send them.
Yes.
And then you send them and then you reevaluate. Are they adjusting well? Are they happy at home? Are they sleeping still? Or, are they...
Yeah.
And then you reevaluate, because even if we had an option of 2 places that were priced differently, like how would you pick?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard, especially when availability is as scarce as it is down here. So again, if you're living anywhere else, please tell us what it is like. So it's interesting because the Lower Mainland has these $10 a day daycares, and there's only a couple in each location. Apparently all of Vancouver does $10 days.
Yeah, like the city of Vancouver.
Anyways, it's moot point. But
then people who live in Vancouver are driving to other cities to get daycare.
Because all the spots are full. Yeah. There's not enough daycare spots. But we do have government incentives that came into play. So daycare is more affordable overall from previous years. Yeah. It's way more affordable. But just like to give a ballpark figure of what we pay here, on average, daycares would either be a $10 a day, which there's not a ton of those, but that is out there. And then on the higher end is probably goes up to like $800 to $1,000 for most places. And that's for like CFA, which is meal plans, like all the frills they have to wear, uniforms. It's like
fancy.
All the frills is kind of place is probably going to cost you about $1,000 with the new government incentives. So that's kind of what
the average seems to be like $500 to $650 for full time.
$550 to $650, yes, for full time. We're talking about
for full time, yeah. Yes. For normal hours, like not, yeah.
Yeah, and those are normally not meal plans. That's normally just like full time care. $550 to $650.
And some of the really fancy places require a meal plan. Like you don't have an option not to, which is hard if you are interested in it, but you don't know if you want to commit to it forever, because like that's a hefty price tag, and that's with the incentive. So without it, it's like $2,000 a month, which apparently people used to pay. I don't know how.
There is a lot to think of about daycares, and so it's good to kind of have a few things that you're looking for. But I think ultimately,
need to be flexible.
Yes, be flexible and just look for somewhere that you get that good vibe from. That you could actually be like, okay, they look like they care about people here.
You need to be flexible with what is like a nice to have and what's required, but then you also need to be firm with how you feel, how your child's treated. Like if you feel like they're being, like if they are not adjusting well, regardless of how lovely the daycare staff are, then it's not a good fit for you and your child. So, and I think it takes like months and months to figure that out. But, and also if your spidey sensors are going, then that's good to know. You can also look them up as well because they're licensed. If you're going to a licensed place, you can actually see if they've had any infractions and what they were for. So like I looked up our place and they didn't have like an employee file, like for some of the employees on site. It was at head office, which apparently has to be on site. And I was like, I'm okay with that. That's like a very
that doesn't bother
minor
me.
thing. And like they had to fix a ramp at one point, but there's no major.
Like a rat infestation. Maybe you'd be like, that's a little concerning.
No, thank you. None of those. So yeah, that's another thing. I'm sure if you're looking up any licensed place, you can look them up wherever you live.
Yeah.
That was very reassuring. And then you can also, another thing I did was I reached out to the local Facebook group, like the mom Facebook group, and just said, hey, like I'm curious of people's experiences. Like, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, if it worked for your family. And I got a lot of really good points. And like some things that people didn't like the nap routine can be rigid for some. But
oh yeah, we can talk about that. I forgot. So for ours, one thing that we didn't ask, we didn't think about, had no place in my mind, but that we didn't find out until we started is that they only accommodate one nap. And Jordan was still, so she started at 10 and a half months old. She was still on 2 naps and they would only accommodate 1. So it was a really hard transition. And ultimately we're still really happy there and we're glad that we did it. And now that she's on one nap and all is well, like the transition was worth it.
Yeah.
But I would never have thought to ask that. I wasn't like, that was not on my mind at all. I just thought at this age they would accommodate 2 naps. I just thought that was a thing that all daycares would do. So I was unpleasantly surprised at that. I was like, oh,
quite
crap.
common too.
Yeah.
And it's also common once kids get older that they have to nap. And even if the kids are no longer napping. So I know this happened with my niece, that she was still not forced to nap, but she's put in a dark room with a sound machine. Like, what do you think's going to happen? The way that they like argue is that like, oh, they're just having quiet time. But if you put a child in a dark room with a sound machine, most likely they're going to fall asleep. So for a lot of families, there's like this awkward in between where the kid has dropped the nap, but the daycare still requires it. So then they come home and they're up until like midnight, and it just like starts the cycle. So that's one thing you can ask if you have an older child. And then also if you have a younger child, you can ask about nap schedules.
And then also about where they sleep, because some places have cribs, some only have cots. Ours has a few cribs and then the rest are cots. So the youngest babies all get the cribs, and then they transition as they get older into a cot. So Jordan is now going to be transitioning to a cot in the next like month. And so I was
She's
like,
a big girl
well,
now.
I hope that she likes it, but kind of their problem, not ours.
Definitely.
Like I hope that they can figure it out and that she naps. I have no idea how it'll go.
She adjusted to napping there.
Totally.
So that's one thing we can actually talk about, the fear. So one thing starting daycare that I was most worried about was sleeping at daycare, because he sleeps like when he's not in a regression or teething, he sleeps pretty well at home, but like we have our routine, and I was like, how is somebody else going to put him down all the time? But man, these daycare workers, they got tips and tricks.
And I know that's a big worry for so many moms. Like I just talked to another mom about this week. I was terrified. Like this was one of the most stressful points of starting daycare for me. Like other than just the letting go of control, and we'll get to that, but just the idea that like she's not a great sleeper. Like how the heck is she going to sleep for someone else when there's a whole bunch of other kids in the room? They're all making noises, and like then it's also
waking
just
each other
stimulating
up
for them to look around and see other kids. Like she's used to being in a room by herself
alone,
in the dark with her, her space. And the biggest thing for us is that the daycare workers just kept being like, this is our problem. Like, we know this is our job. Like, this is for us to figure out, not for you to worry about. Like, you don't need to micromanage this. Like, we've got it.
That's what
like,
we do best. That is what we do
I
best.
know, but they just kept reminding us, like, this is what we do. She will sleep. We will make it work. We will find ways. Like, we've been doing this for a while. Like, we've got this. And so I was reminding another mom of that this week. I'm like, they'll figure it out. Like between your child and the workers, they figure out what will work for them. They make it work, because everyone wants them to sleep. Like they want them to sleep. The baby needs to sleep. They want to sleep. We want them to sleep. Like
we all want sleep.
It's everyone's best interest for them to nap, so they'll figure it out.
And also like the same way with like other caretakers, like grandparents or even our partners, babies, they don't need the exact same routine with every person.
Yes.
Like they did ask us like what the general routine is, but they all develop their own routine because they're different caretakers. They have a different relationship. Yeah. So the way they put him down there is different than at home. Like they can stay at the bedside, and one of the girls says, she just goes, shh, 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 and like shushes him, and he just goes to sleep. Where at home, if I'm at the bedside, he loses it, and I just need to leave the room, and then he settles. So it's interesting.
I know, but they figure it out.
They figure it out. They do.
The same thing with eating. Like,
yeah,
it can be a big worry. Like, are they going to eat there? Like, because sometimes babies only want to eat for one parent, or they'll only eat like very specific things at specific times in their special high chair, in their special plate, in their special. Like some kids are very big on routine and like their things. So then when you switch them to a new place, you're like, well, he's never going to eat because he only ever eats from this plate. Well, no, they figure it out.
They figure it out.
They make it work. It's
new routines.
Quite amazing. Like I have so much respect for daycare workers.
Man.
Like I could not do it. And for us, it's 8 kids in this room. Like I get overwhelmed when I'm in there for like half an hour.
Yeah,
I'm
dropping them off.
I'm like, you're all so cute, but like all day with all of you, like.
When you drop her off, do all the other kids come running to say hello?
Oh, yeah. And one always brings me a book. So I always end up reading him a book because he wants me to read him a book. So I'll like sit with him and read him a book in the mornings.
I love that.
When I'm not in a hurry.
Yeah.
I read him like 3 books the other day because I was just like sitting. It was in the morning. I had nowhere else to go. So I just sat down and was reading books with them. Jordan was nowhere near me. Yeah, she could have cared less that I was still there. But the other kids were like, oh, who's this new person?
Yeah, who's reading me a book today? That's
like fun. They're all so cute. But
I know. And they're all snotty always.
Yeah. So let's talk about, like I briefly talked about it, but like what age did you start? And talk about Henry's kind of transition of how did he start? Like, did you start slowly, a couple hours? Like, what was the actual physical transition like?
We started him at 11 months because I was going back to work at a year. So this gave us like a really nice like month-long buffer, which is just the way it worked out with the daycare we got into, which if you have this option, I definitely recommend it. It made things much easier. Although maybe some people just prefer to rip the Band-Aid off and go to work and daycare at the same time. But for me, it really worked. We did a gradual entry. They didn't have like a set schedule at our place. They kind of left it up to us and kind of made some recommendations, but we went nice and slow. So we did like an hour the first day and then 2 hours the next. And then I think like 2 or 3 hours the following day. He started with having a short morning nap there because our place did accommodate 2 naps. So they would do a short morning nap. He stayed for lunch and then I picked him up. And then I think he did like 3 or 4 half days. And then we started doing full days and I'd pick him up right after the afternoon nap. And now he goes anywhere from like 7:45 to like 9 in the morning. Sometimes if I'm not working, I take him in a little later and then he gets picked up like 4:30 every day. And yeah, one thing that made our transition a little bit harder for me, not for him, was that he was still nursing. And at this point, he wasn't really taking any bottles. He would still take a bottle, but it wasn't part of our daily routine anymore. Where early on, if you listen to our episode on breastfeeding, I did a lot of pumping and a lot of bottle feeding early on. I think until summer. So until he was maybe like 9 or 10 months old, he had a bottle every night. My husband would do that while I pumped. And then eventually I just got so over pumping, we started nursing at night. So when he started daycare, he wasn't really taking bottles. So then I had to change my routine and start pumping again. And I kind of like toyed with the idea of maybe weaning or day weaning, but I wasn't sure yet. And I didn't want to make that decision when I was like emotional about him going to daycare. So I kept pumping during the day just once while he was at daycare, and then would feed him morning and night. And now that I'm back to work, we've kind of weaned breastfeeding to just morning and night. And then once in a while during the day, if he's home, and then he has bottles when he's at daycare. So he gets a combo of breast milk. We went through our freezer stash. And then when I'm working, I'm pumping. So he'll get some of that. And then he does get a little bit of cow's milk in his bottle as well, which I always thought that I would never do. But you know what? Here we are.
As we say in almost every episode, like you end up doing things you never expected. I'm not going to be the parent that does this, or I don't think I'll do this. You end up doing it.
For sure. And I do understand like the reason why it's like discouraged, but it's working for us right now and it's helping him with his adjustment, and it's not a forever thing. And I think ideally the reason I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to extend the bottle journey because I'm over bottles. I'm done with them. So that was us. What about you, Jen? So age, kind of what you did, how it changed with
ours was
feeding.
At 10 and a half. And that was because 2 things. One, in order to get the spot, we had to start paying in a certain month. So for us to guarantee to get the spot in August, she'd be 1 in September, mid-September. We had to confirm, like, just to get the spot, we had to start in August. But then I also had to go back to work early because I got pregnant. So it all worked out that I needed to go back to work in August. And so that it worked out that we had to take it in August. So she was, between 10 and a half and 11 months, I guess, almost 11 months. She started, and ours had like a set gradual entry that they gave us and said, this is what we're going to do. And they said, obviously, like, it varies parent to parent, like, or child to child, I guess, and seeing how, and parent to parent, seeing how everyone's doing, they could make definitely adjustments. But actually, Jordan's first week, we had all this planned, and then she was sick. So she didn't even go. The first week we paid for daycare, didn't even go. I was like, Classic. This is what people talk about. Like, you pay all this money. And anyways, so she was sick the first week. And the next week, it actually worked out well because I was back at work and my husband was off. So he did the gradual entry because for the first day, they actually encouraged the parent to stay the whole time. So my husband went, and I think they stayed for an hour or 2 the first day. And so he could stay and like see how they function. And he did nothing. Like, they did all they did a diaper change. They fed the snack. Like, he didn't actually like interact much with the kids, but he got to see like, this is how they structure, this is how they do their days. And so he came home being like, I love this place. Like, that's good. It was a really good experience so that he felt comfortable too. And then the next day he just dropped her off for 2 hours. And then I think it was a half day or 2 half days and then full days. Like, then it just kind of, into it. So it was like a week long, I think, overall transition. Again, I would recommend if you're not working and you could be off for the week of the transition, it's helpful. But ultimately, scheduling work-wise, I mean, it might not happen. And then it's not the end of the world. If it happens, great. If not, you will make it work and it'll be okay.
And they'll be fine. And like for some babies, maybe it is better just to like not do it too gradually. Like sometimes I look back and I'm like, did we take too long, like working up to the full day? But I don't know. It worked for us. I was off work. Gave me something to do.
And I think that they know what they're doing. So like if they have ideas about this is how you should do it, I would listen to them because I think they've done this before,
Definitely.
right? They do this with all the kids. Like, so I think listening to kind of what your daycare is experienced, like this is kind of our happy middle ground of what a gradual entry looks like.
Also based on like how they were doing. So like by the Friday we got to a half day and she actually recommended, she's like, Monday, let's just plan for another half day because they often, sometimes on the Monday they regress since they've been away.
Yeah, because they didn't go for 2 days. So then they think,
they're like, okay, it's done. It's over. I don't have to go back there.
Right? Stuff you wouldn't necessarily think, but they know from experience, right? And then I obviously wasn't breastfeeding, and so we just give formula and bottles, and they were still giving a bottle once a day. We just said as needed. Like you could do up to 2, because at the time she was still young, and now she is up to, if you think she needs it in the day, you can give her 1, but she doesn't need 1. We went one day where we actually forgot the morning bottle, and we didn't give her 1 until nighttime. So she only had 1 bottle. Like that was it. The rest was just actual solid food.
She's like, look at
so
me go.
we're almost there,
You're
which is
working.
nice because I also hate bottles and cleaning.
I'm sick
and
of them.
They're just,
you need like a good month with no bottles before a new baby comes.
I know. Our goal is just her to be off them completely before the new baby comes. But yeah. Anyways, also for the transition, ours was very good that they gave us a list of things that they needed, and I know yours gave you like a suggestion too of like these are the things that you need.
List,
And it was a lot.
Yeah, things
like,
that you don't expect.
And then I just didn't realize that we would need 2 of everything, and I guess that was me just not thinking it through. But like Muddy Buddies, like she needs 1 for there and then at home, but at home she also needs like at least a rain jacket or something because we still want to go outside and do things. So if not having 2 Muddy Buddies, 1 for home, 1 for daycare, you need at least rain stuff at home, and like then rain boots or waterproof shoes. And for regular ours, shoes, I didn't realize the daycares, it's actually a liability. I don't know if it's in every childcare or different cities have different rules and regulations, but they need to wear shoes. Kids need to wear shoes at all times in daycare. So they have to have indoor shoes on. And I was like, well, crap, now you need indoor and outdoor shoes for daycare, but then you need shoes for at home. And I was like, this is a lot of shoes. And shoes are not cheap. And then they grow out of them so fast.
So fast, yeah.
So I just found I was like, oh, there's a lot of now toques and gloves. Now we're getting to rainy season. I was like, you need toques, gloves, like mittens, waterproof shoes, like the Muddy Buddy. We had to get the next size of Muddy Buddy because I was like, I don't know when you're going to grow out of this 12-month one.
A winter coat when it gets cold.
Yeah, do you need a snowsuit? Like, are they going to go out in the snow? Because they try to go out, rain or shine, whatever the weather.
It could be fun
unless it's like a storm, they try to get them outside time twice a day, which is great. I love that. But then you need to prepare and have all these things there, but then have them all at home.
Sunscreen, sun hats, bathing suits.
Oh, yeah, diaper cream, diapers, wipes. Like, you have to bring all these things and leave them there. So just, it's good. Hopefully they give you a list because then you can like feel like you actually have everything. And then ours, we do get a report at the end of every day. So ours isn't live updates. Like some daycares have an app and they have live updates that throughout the day, they'll tell you every bowel movement, every pee, whatever, everything they ate, it gets sent to you, photos. Ours is like a recap at the end of the day. And ours will say like, oh, need more socks, because they'll send them home if they get wet or dirty. So ours will give us reminders of like, oh yeah, we need more wipes soon, or we need more diapers soon. So it's kind of nice that you can look and be like, okay, you need more of this. And then you can help plan for that. So
we tuck ours in our lunchbox, little love letters.
Yeah, like
bring us stuff. And Henry needs a new spare outfit almost every week because he has poop blowouts like literally 2 or 3 times a week right now. And I don't know if he's just like in between diaper sizes, but
then aren't you like, this is why we pay daycare? Like you deal with the blowout for
once.
Exactly.
Like, and I get the poopy stuff in a bag. And the other day, man, he had one and it looked like newborn poop. It was like seedy. I'm like, what the heck are you eating, guy? But
I know. Yeah.
Big poop. He loves his poops.
So that was kind of like what the actual physical transition was like. What would you say was the hardest part of the transition for you? Was it the breastfeeding?
I
like
think
the pumping?
Having to go back to pumping, and also just like fixating and ruminating over like changing schedules and routines, because like I like a good routine, and now everything was changing, and we had this like 2-week period where we were transitioning into daycare, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't what it's going to be like forever. So like there was a lot of like living in limbo and just yeah, like the change of routines for me, for him. I think the hardest part for me was actually worrying about him, like he's just a sensitive little guy. He's got a lot of emotions. He's just like me, and I worried about his like well-being while he was there. And lots of people would say, well, like if he cries, it's fine, it's their problem. I'm like, I get that, and like, yes, they are going to deal with it, but my heart still hurts knowing that he is sad or scared or upset. And that was the hardest part for me, like thinking that he's just going to be like scared and upset the whole time. And maybe he was for a little bit, but now he's doing okay. But that was hard. And then also spending less time with them, which actually kind of turned out to be nice, if I'm being honest.
But sometimes spending a little bit less time during the day, it makes your night times more meaningful with them. When you pick them up, there's like, it suddenly, right? Like it kind of like fills your cup so that you can spend really, really good time with them, as opposed to like an exhausting day.
Going through the motions all the time. Like we actually get to do like fun quality time now.
And you feel like you can play more and in better ways almost. Like
definitely. And maybe some people can do that all the time, but I'm just too tired for that.
Yeah, I don't have the energy for that either.
What about you, Jen? What was the hardest part?
I think letting go of control was I'm a control freak. It was hard for me to just let go of control to my husband, like let alone to a whole like strangers I don't know. And like, you're going to control what she eats and how she sleeps and when she does this and how she play. Like it's
hard.
It's hard. And I was excited because I wanted her to be able to learn from other people, and like they help they do a lot of like sign language, and they're working on words, and they work on gross motor development. Like they do all these good things, which is great. But I was like, oh, but I'm not going to be doing it then. Like I'll do it at home, but
they're teaching them.
Just letting go of control was just really hard, even though I knew it was beneficial for her. It was good for me to like, she needs to learn from other people. That's like a normal part of life. Like
definitely.
But
it's hard to let go of.
It was just very hard. That was the biggest part for me. And then I was just stressed about the sleep, but the sleep ended up being okay. But that was just something I didn't need to. It works out. And some days she only sleeps half an hour during the day. Some days she sleeps an hour and a half to 2 hours. Other days it's half an hour. And that's just where we're at. And we make it work. They make it work. And all's good.
Always have a little quick cat nap on the ride home.
Yeah.
How many hours do they allot for naps every day? 2 hours?
I don't know what it is on the schedule. I think the most any of the kids sleeps is 2.5. They're all normally awake by 2:30.
See, ours does nap from 1 to 3, and I just wish that it could be like 12:45 to 3:50, like a 2.5 hour, because he seems to do best when he gets 2.5 hours a day sleep, either in one nap or two. But when he's having his morning naps and he's not having a good afternoon nap, so we've transitioned him to one nap, and he's doing well with that. I just wish that it could be like a little bit longer, but
ours does lunchtime at like 11:30ish, and then once they're all done lunch and cleaned up, they do diaper changes and then put them all to bed.
Nap, yeah.
So sometimes they'll put her first if she looks super tired, so she'll go to bed at like 12:15. Other times like 12:30, 12:45, like depending on
how she's doing,
who looks the most tired.
Who's falling asleep at lunch.
She's fallen asleep once. She's at the table. She actually fell asleep. Anyways,
that's so funny.
Yes.
What do you think was the hardest part for Jordan?
She didn't do, I wouldn't say great, but she did cry for like a solid week or two at drop-offs. But then now she like waves at us. She'll run over, hug us, and then leave. Like it's seemingly a lot better. But those first couple weeks, she did cry at drop-off. So I think that was hard to see us go. We didn't want to like do the disappearing act. Like we made a point to say we were going, saying goodbye, so that they knew like maybe it would have been easier if we just kind of disappeared. But we didn't. We wanted to make sure she knew what was happening. So I'd say that. And then the other thing is the patience. Like I think she was just used to, she'd ask for something, I would do it. She was done eating, I'd take her out of her high chair. Well, now that there's, 8 kids, sometimes she has to wait when she's done eating for the other kids to get cleaned up.
What good practice
to get to her. And like same thing when they're going to go outside, they put them in these like wagon things. And so sometimes she's the first one, like she'll have her muddy buddy and she'll get put in, but now she needs to wait for the 3 other kids to get muddy buddies and get put in. So I think that it was hard for her to learn, like, it's not one-on-one. Like I don't immediately get things. And I think that was
hard for her.
That was hard for her. And I think it's still a struggle for her, but like I hope it, I'm like, great. This is great. You guys are working on this. It's good
practice for baby coming.
Right? Because we're going to have another one soon and this is going to be the same at home. And so yeah, the patience and the crying at drop-offs was hardest for her. What about Henry?
I think for him, just like being away from me, because he was going through a huge like stranger danger mummy daddy phase when he started daycare, like intense for like started early August and he started in September, where he just like if we went somewhere, I used to be able to like give him to someone and he would go play with them or they'd hold him. And for like the whole month before starting daycare, that was like not an option. I had to be holding him. Jeff had to be holding him. I had to be like within vision. If I like went out of vision, it was like super distressing for him. Like, I don't know if it's like separation anxiety or he just like didn't want to be around other people, you know? So a little bit of that was the hardest because that made drop-offs really hard. He cried like a lot, like screamed. And they said he settled like a few minutes after I left, but leaving when he's screaming, like I had to just leave. Like I would tell him, I'm gonna hand you over to whoever now, and I'm gonna leave and you're gonna stay here, and then you're gonna eat and nap and then eat, and then I'm gonna come pick you up. Like I'd walk through the day with him, and I'm like, hey, and then either me or dad are gonna come get you, and then like I'd hand him over and wave. And they recommended to me, they're like, you just need to leave. Like you can't just like stay and try to calm him from a distance, because he will never calm when he can see you, but you're not holding him. So I felt really bad. Like a lot of the days I would like hand him over and just like book it out, because I'm like, I can't listen to you cry and nobody is going to settle. So that was, I think, hard for him and hard for me, actually.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It is hard watching him cry and then leaving them.
But then knowing that he settles right away is, and now he doesn't, sometimes he'll be whine a little, but he's okay. He's excited. Today I forgot to bring his lunch in and went back in, and he was across the room playing, and I was like, okay, he's good. He did fine with sleep, but he struggled with food and eating, mostly because he's in a huge food throwing phase and it's fun for him. And I think there he enjoyed it. So for like weeks, I'd be like, how did he eat? And they would just like
signal the food throwing.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, he does that at home too.
Yeah.
But he's kind of getting out of it. He's eating a little bit more. Maybe it has to do with teething, but that was definitely a hard transition. And also he eats what we eat at home for the most part, and when I send that to daycare, he would never eat it. So he would eat something for dinner, absolutely love it, and I'd send it the next day and they're like, no, he didn't like it, he wouldn't even take a bite. So we've been sending him with like very like bland, simple food, like noodles with butter and Parmesan. And we tried it where they heated it up and it didn't really make a difference. So we just put it all in his little bento box, very plain. We usually do like fruit, puffs, cheese, a little granola bar or muffin or something, and then like a main course. But they say he eats really well when it's just plain boring food. So maybe just being there, it's like enough stimulation that like stimulating food is too much. I don't know. Noodles are like essentially the only thing he'll eat there. So he gets a lot of noodles.
Hey, that's fine. And like as long as he's eating, I think that's the most important
definitely
thing.
And he eats like pretty well breakfast and dinner with us. So if he eats noodles with butter every day, you know what? Good enough. Good enough.
One thing I will say about Jordan's daycare and the meal plan, something that we didn't really think about before with the meal plan, is just that we think that she eats more or she tries more things there because the other kids are eating it.
Definitely.
Like I would say there's only one kid I think that doesn't have the meal plan in her group. So they're all eating the same things and they're like, oh man, Jordan loved fish today. She loved this. And we'll serve it at home and she won't eat it. So I'm like, I think she just...
It's different.
I don't know if you're worried about your kid. There was something about the meal plan that I think she's actually trying more foods and like
definitely more exposure, and like
we leave pouches there and snacks in case she won't eat anything. Yeah, they give her crackers and she eats the crackers there. I bought the exact same crackers at home. She hasn't eaten one. So I'm like, I don't know. So maybe there's something to like when they're eating in groups and if they're all eating the same thing. So something to consider too. We never realized it, but she eats a lot more variety and like I don't know. She seems to be more adventurous because they're all eating the same thing.
I've heard with people too at daycare, their kids eat better. One, they're playing so much, they're probably freaking starving.
Yes, yeah.
And that just with all the other kids eating. For Henry, he was like, look at all these kids watching me throw shit. Yeah.
I'm going to keep
That's
throwing
way
these.
more fun for him.
Yeah.
It's like sleeping. Some babies sleep really well at daycare. Some eat really well at daycare.
Yeah, they're all going to be different.
So how did you feel being away from them and like spending less time with them?
So I thought I was going to love it. I thought I was going to be like so excited to go back to work and to get into this work daycare routine. And I found I hated it. And all of a sudden I wanted to quit work or I wanted to become a teacher so I could work normal daytime hours and have every holiday off and weekends off. And like I just all of a sudden wanted to change all of these things that I've never considered ever in my life before. And I was like, this is so weird. Like
this is not me.
This is not who I ever thought I would be. And I just felt really sad that I had to work shift work.
Do you still feel that way? Like sad that you have to work and that she goes to daycare?
It's less, but still a little bit. I still feel a bit guilty, but overall I know that it's the right thing to do. You know, like I know that it's healthy, it's good, it's normal to go to work and for your child to go to daycare. Like that is normal. It's very common. There's nothing bad about like it's okay. Like if you want to be a stay-at-home mom or homeschool your kids, like that is great. But it's also okay, and it's totally great if you want to work and send them to daycare.
Definitely.
Like it's whatever works for you and your family, and I have to remind myself that of all the time. But like a lot of mom guilt. It's slowly getting better and better every week, but it's still there.
You're feeling good. Feeling better. See, I had the opposite experience. I initially thought that I would be excited to have the time away, and then I thought as time went on, I would not enjoy that time away as much. But maybe it's just because like this week after going back to work, I'm like really needing some alone time to like decompress. But I'm actually really enjoying the routine of him going to daycare, because like maybe, you know, it's a lot. I think it's just because he's really liking it right now. And every time we go, they're just like telling us all these like new things he's doing that are like good signs of adjustment.
Yeah.
And I'm liking that. And I don't know. I feel I get a lot of like anxiety as a mom, like I'm not doing enough and that I'm not playing with them this way, and they're not getting this variety of this and that, and he doesn't have enough toys, he has too many toys, like he's not getting enough stimulation. So I think that him going to daycare kind of relieves some of that pressure, because I know he's around new people, new kids, new adults. Like he's exposed to things that he's not exposed to at home, like in a good way. One of my coworkers actually said to me, she was asking if I work full time, and I was like, oh, I do, but shift work. And like I was telling her that maybe one day I'm going to look into go into public health, and she's like, oh, but then you would have to get full-time daycare. I'm like, well, he's in full-time daycare. And they're like, oh, well, then you would have to like use the full-time daycare. I'm like, well, we are using it right now. Sure, like an odd day, you'll probably go 4 days a week most weeks, maybe not, I don't know. But I was like, well, I work full time, so he has full-time daycare. Me working Monday to Friday wouldn't really change that. But it just made me think, like, maybe, am I not supposed to be sending him full time? Like,
no, you're supposed to be sending that as normal.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Just because you have the day off doesn't mean, like, it could be after a night shift and you need to sleep all day.
Oh, yeah. I'm
like,
counting that as a work
I know so
day.
many shift workers. So to me, this is so normal. Like,
so
when you're shift work, you still need full-time daycare.
Exactly.
Like, you might keep them home and have fun days or go for adventures. Or if you end up having Thursday, Friday off, maybe, you know, your husband takes the days off and that's when you do your family vacation. Like, you know, the odd day you might keep them home or do something fun or pick
shorter
them up
hours.
early. For something. But it's very normal for them to still go to daycare full-time. Yeah. And like you said, they learn so many good things. They get to interact, learn how to like share toys with other kids and like learn from other people. They're learning different things. They're playing activities I never would have imagined in my brain.
Exactly.
Like singing songs and dancing, and
doing
they do
arts
like
and crafts.
Like stuff
we are not doing arts and crafts at home, and apparently he loves them. They were saying that he thinks the crafts. He's like, he loves them. He thinks it's so funny, and I'm like, that's hilarious, because we do not do arts and crafts at home. He grabbed a thing of glitter the other day and was just like shaking it, and apparently had the best time. And I was like, well, I'm glad, because I don't have glitter at home. Well, I think it was closed, but still.
Yeah, I don't think you're a glitter at home kind of mom. I can't see you. I feel like the mess, you would just be like, there'd be glitter everywhere all over my house.
Although I do really like glitter.
But if it was all over your house, you'd be so stressed.
You know, one time I actually had an ex-boyfriend lock me out of his house because I was covered in glitter. I just remembered that.
Were you at the strippers? Why were you covered in glitter?
We went to a theme party, and our theme was gold. So a whole bunch of us hairsprayed our legs and covered ourselves in glitter. And at the end of the night, then we went out, and at the end of the night, I think he went home early. I can't even remember if he was out with us, but his house was on my way home, and the plan was for me to go stay there. I was like knocking on the door, and he just would not answer. And then I was like, fine, I'll go home. So I went home, and then the next day he's like, yeah, you weren't coming into my house like that. And that's so funny. You know, I mean, he's not wrong. I was head to toe covered in glitter. Having to deal with me covered in glitter was probably not at the top of his priority list.
I mean, okay, fair. But
I don't blame him. But
okay,
I love glitter. I do. I really love glitter. Just not in my own house.
Okay, best piece of advice that you got for starting daycare.
A coach on Instagram that is also local in Vancouver. Her name's Nadine. We'll link her below. She gave me a wonderful piece of advice. I was explaining to her that I was just really worried about him being away and being really scared, and this being really traumatizing for him. And she encouraged me to just reframe it and And instead of it being like scary for him being away from me, that he actually could be enjoying his time, enjoying being around new people and being cared for by other people. Instead of me being worried that he's not going to get like the love and compassion for me, that he's going to be getting that from his daycare workers, and the staff there are going to care for him and love him the way that I would if I was with him. And just reframing that like, okay, maybe going to daycare can actually be a good thing for him, that he's going to be loved, he's going to be cared for, he's going to be stimulated, he's going to do new activities, instead of it just being like he's going to be scared and want to come home.
So reframing all your negative what if scenarios to positive what if scenarios.
Exactly. And
focusing on the positive ones.
Definitely. Yeah. And now that he's been there for like a month and a half, she's so right. All of those things are true. Mm-hmm. Like, they love him. The other day when I was picking him up, I was holding him and we were chatting, and then the gal was like, I need one more hug from him. And I was like, hey, that's so cute. Mm-hmm. So that, I would say, is like the biggest piece of advice, is that like it doesn't have to be scary and traumatic for them. And it actually, there's so many benefits to daycare.
Yes.
And whether you are sending them by choice or not by choice, like it can also be like a really beneficial experience for them.
Yeah. To focus on the positive what ifs of
Definitely.
them loving it and learning and just being curious and learning different styles and different things. Yeah. I think that's
for sure.
That's awesome.
Is there anything that any good advice you received, or anything you would say to somebody else?
No, Jordan was one of like the first in our mom group to go, and she started younger. And so I didn't really talk to anyone about it beforehand. Like, she just kind of went, and we just kind of tried it and hoped for the best. And I just had to remind myself constantly, like every day, I'm like, this is good for her. Like, I just had to remind myself of the positives about learning and playing with other kids and playing different things. And like, they go outside twice a day. I'm like, all of this is so good for her and for her to learn and grow into the person she's supposed to become. Like, I just had to remind myself of the positives every day. Yeah. Like, I had to really learn into that positive self-talk of like
lean in
to like all those positives. So kind of what Nadine was telling you, like that I just was positive self-talk every day. Like, this is good. She's going to be happy and she's going to learn new things. And, you know, she was so happy every time I picked her up that I was like, okay, this is really like, I loved how excited she was to see me.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good.
And it's like it's a nice feeling.
Definitely. And also, if you are in the trenches of daycare transition and it's really hard, just know that like it does get better. Especially, yes. I don't think I was mentally prepared for how hard the first week was going to be and how hard it was going to be to drop him off the first time. Like, he'd been watched so many times by grandparents and friends and his aunties, and I just did not expect to have this like overwhelming sense of like just sadness and grief. Oh, there were so many tears. You can go on our Instagram. I cried for all of you. Lots of tears. And I didn't expect that, because I'm like, it takes a lot for me to cry now. I couldn't stop crying for like a whole week. And I remember being in the trenches of it and not expecting it to be that hard and like thinking it would never get better. And here we are.
I know. It's funny, right?
Yeah.
And that's like a month and a half. That's not an absurd amount of time, right?
And he's a pretty easygoing baby, but he's also very emotional. Mm-hmm. So I was anticipating it would be long for him.
Yes.
But he's like, sayonara, mama. I'm with my gals here.
I was worried about like long weekends and going back. Because if they're gone, if they're off for 3 or 4 days, is she going to want to go back? And like, it really hasn't seemed to phase Jordan either. So I'm like, okay, like I think
these are good signs.
I think you're happy, right? So I don't know.
Defo.
Was there anything that you would do differently? Like, any last thoughts about daycare you would do differently? You would look for in a daycare that you didn't care about? Like, anything you would change?
I don't know if I would change anything about the place I went. Like I said, it would be nice to have cameras, but maybe it wouldn't. So again, that's kind of on like a nice to have, not on a must for me. I think going back, I wish that I was more prepared for how hard the transition was going to be. I think I just went into it naive, thinking that, well, like I've been away from him. Like I've been away from him for a whole night. Like it's going to be okay. And I think looking back, I wish that I like prepared to be more compassionate and gentle on myself instead of planning this week with like a million things. So I was like, oh, he's going to be at daycare. I can do all of this stuff I've been wanting to do. So I think looking back, that week I needed to just plan as like a do nothing week. Mm-hmm. That is what I would change the most.
Yeah.
Actually him being there, nothing. What about you?
Yeah, nothing. Like the transitional 1 nap was hard. would it have been nice to have been somewhere where she could have 2 naps for a little bit longer? I mean, maybe,
but now she's
now
over
it's great. Now I'm like, you know what? It worked how it's supposed to work. Like, I truly just, again, I lean into this idea that like it happened how it was supposed to happen. Like, we're happy with the place. Like, we walk in and teachers I've never seen before, like, good morning, Jordan. I'm like, how do you know her name? Like,
they're just in the back studying all the names.
And the admin staff that are in the front office, Jordan waves, like, she'll stop at their office and wave at them every morning, every time we leave, and they all know her name. Like, so I'm just like, you know what? You're just loved there. You're happy there. So yeah, ultimately there's nothing I would really change. But it's just, you have to find that right fit and that right feeling for you. And what's important for one person might not be on anyone else's radar. So just do what's important for you and your family. And just know that it's okay. If you need to go to daycare, you need to send your child there. Like,
it is okay.
That is okay. And it is normal. It's common. Like, so many of us have to do it. Especially in 2023, life is so expensive. It's very hard to be able to afford to stay at home.
And it's okay if you send them. It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you send them and you don't want to. It's okay if you
want to send them and you're so excited that they're going. Like,
everybody has a different life. There's context, and, you know, sending your kid to daycare and then those moments when you do get that time you do get to spend with them being sweeter is such a wonderful bonus. But we're not telling anybody to send their kid to daycare so they can have those nice, sweet moments. Like, if you don't, that's
just like general self-care. Like, then go out for your own walk or workout to get that, right? You don't need to do daycare to get that.
That's not the solution if that's what you need. But yeah, whatever you got to do. If you do daycare part-time, full-time, family watches
home daycare.
them.
Yeah, like, there's so many different options. So you really just kind of need to weigh the pros and cons of what works best for you.
And it's okay to try a daycare and it just not being a good fit. Doesn't mean it's a bad daycare. Doesn't mean they're bad teachers there. Like, it's just not a good fit. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you gotta, So if you do need to break up with a daycare, you do it. Luckily, we haven't had to, but
get yourself on lots of wait lists just so you, like, we put ourselves on a lot of wait lists so that we had options, and we toured them all. We wanted to, like, be informed, know what our options were like, know what places, because it's also easier to compare places when you've seen a few.
Definitely.
Because if you're just going to one and you're like, okay, then this is the norm. Like, it's just,
especially if you're not familiar with daycares.
If you see a couple, then you know, like, you know.
What's out there.
What's out there. It's just good to, like, see a couple, see what your options are, get on some wait lists, and just see what happens.
Although some places only do tours once you've been accepted. So a lot of the ones in Maple Ridge are like that, yeah.
But I know that you had that. But in Langley, we could tour them all.
Yeah.
Because sometimes to get on a wait list, you have to pay a fee.
Oh,
and so you also don't want to go on too many wait lists because you're paying fees. So lots to consider. But yeah.
Let's do our Mom Day mantra.
Okay, you go for it today, Karlee.
Yeah, so this one's about letting go. Let it go. Let it go. I'm just going to stop. Anyways. Should I edit that out?
No, keep it in. I loved it.
All right. So daycare, a place where we learn to let go, knowing it's a safe space for our children to learn and grow. We didn't mean to, but that actually rhymes.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, go us. That was great.
So daycare can be a safe space for them to develop and thrive into a wonderful child. And it doesn't mean that you love them any less. It doesn't mean that someone else is parenting them and raising them. It just means they have more than one big person in their life, and that's okay. And it's okay for us to not want to let go of control, and it can be like a gentle ease into it. Or
it's healthy to let go of it.
It's healthy to let go again.
A little bit.
Or words. It is healthy to let go of it, definitely. So that's that. That's daycare.
Yeah, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, let us know. Anyways, give us a like, follow, subscribe,
whatever it is.
Whatever the verbiage is.
Yeah, whatever the button is. Hit it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
Happy
for
Mom Day.
Happy Mom Day.
Bye.
Bye.